So my name is Lee Kozak. Today is February 3rd, 2017. We are in the Hosmer House in Sudbury, Massachusetts, and I am here with
Lyn MacLean.
All right, Lyn. So we are basically just going to kind of talk about your life in Sudbury, any particularly interesting changes you've seen the town go through over the past decades. So the first question is like a get to know you. So can you tell us a little about yourself, your name, your age, where you were born, and where you currently live?
Okay, I was born in Framingham, where my sister and I lived on Waveney Farm. We had the best life ever. This farm is located not far from the Wayside Inn. And we had 350 acres to play on. We had 125 registered brown Swiss cows. We had sheep, chickens, horses. Our dairy pasteurized much of the milk that was collected from here in Sudbury. Sudbury at that time had several farms, one being on Water Row, Harry Rice's, where I ended up living. I graduated from Framingham High School and Green Mountain College in Vermont.
So do you have any particularly fond memories of growing up in that farm? You know, because today a lot of kids don't have that space to run around, but is there anything that you remember doing that you still look back on and it makes you smile?
Well, it was a working farm. Mm-hmm. I mean, and as I got older, I had animals I cared for or owned and sold to make money to go to college. I also had a horse and rode the horse through the pastures, and also helped after the Millwood Hunt went through with the chase.
What was going to high school like for you? Because I know for us, I might have a different set of experiences from Kate because I went to high school from 2009 to 2013. So what was high school like for you?
Well, I really hadn't thought about that much. It's been so long ago. I enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. I loved it when I got my license because I didn't have to take the school bus anymore. I think it was a lot stricter there. Mm-hmm. We didn't have open classrooms like you have now. We had hall monitors that guide the way students behave themselves. Of course, we didn't, that I know of, had drugs or liquor problems that were prevalent at that time.
Mm-hmm. And what did you study in college?
Business.
Oh, very interesting.
So these are different questions.
Just trying to build like a...
So you don't want to put this on there, so.
Yeah. So how did you come to live in Sudbury?
Oh, I have lived in Sudbury for 56 years. I met my husband when I got out of college, and he was born here in Sudbury. The population at the time was around 3,000 people. It was a very, very friendly town. We built our home on Water Row in 1961, where I have lived ever since. My husband's sister is Jackie Bausk, and both of our parents belong to the Sudbury Grange, so our parents knew each other.
Okay. For those who might not know, what is the Sudbury Grange?
The Sudbury Grange is an organization for farm people. The building is right beside now of the town hall, and had been the Grange until a few years ago when it was turned over to the Sudbury Foundation and restored.
Okay. And tell us about your family.
Okay, I have 3 children. Richard, my oldest, is a sergeant on the Sudbury Police Department. My daughter, Leslyn, taught at Peter Noyes School for quite a few years before she married and moved to Bar Harbor. And my younger son, Ian, lives in Stowe. All 3 children attended LS, and all 3 graduated from college, and all 3 are happily married.
Very good. And obviously, do you still have family that lives in town? You said your son is a sergeant on the police force here.
They did live in town, but they've moved out to buy their own homes.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. All right. And what was your occupation while you lived in Sudbury?
Oh, well, I lived in Sudbury or before?
Why not both?
Okay, that's where I'll start at the beginning.
Yeah.
My first job was working for a computer control company in Framingham, and that was in the computer industry at the start. From there, I went as an assistant librarian at Peter Noyes School because I wanted to be where my children were and have the same hours they had. Then I went to Digital Equipment Corporation, which is known as DEC, and I have worked there for 20 years. I worked up and became a customer consultant where I traveled throughout the United States arranging and putting on seminars and customer interfacing from those out of the country. For the past 18 years, I have worked as office manager in Natick.
Very nice. And were you and are you actively involved in town politics or philanthropy?
Anybody watching this will laugh at that question about me. I have attended all town meetings since 1960 unless I was sick, and I am still working there on the registration desk. I have served on the cemetery committee, the master plan committee, warden at town elections, and for 35 years I've served on the Sudbury Historical Commission.
So you said cemetery committee. I have no idea what that does. Would you mind explaining to me?
Well, way back then, we now have 7 cemeteries. Mm-hmm. And at that time we didn't, and we wanted to approve where they were, and also the approval of what sections are to be used, and also to preserve those that were like in the King Philip War, etc. I've carried that over into the position I now have as chairman of the Sudbury Historical Commission, and we have now restored 6 of our cemeteries, the last being the Revolutionary Cemetery. The one we will start on in the spring is the Wadsworth Cemetery.
And what goes into restoring a cemetery like that?
Well, there's a lot. Like one grave can cost $2,000 if it has been broken, and we want to not just replace it, we want to repair it. And so heavy machinery has to come in to pick the stone up. And we also want to make sure that a lot of invasive plants aren't covering many of the stones, clean them all up. Straighten the stones is the biggest job. But like in the Revolutionary Cemetery, we did radiation to find out what was underneath. They did find some slabs that had to be brought out, and we built brick bases so they could lay flat. They couldn't stand up anymore, but they could lay flat. So when someone goes into the cemetery, they see those that were put there.
And so a lot of the historical, if not all the historical tombstones are the originals.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
Yes.
I'm going to have to go take a look now. I'm very excited. And what's being a town warden like? That is also something I don't know what that job entails.
Being a town warden?
Yeah.
Oh, that is when you go to vote, you have people that check you in, people that check you out.
Okay.
Then you have someone at the ballot box. But you have someone with a little experience that when people come in with questions, they can go to you, or like they have registered but they're not on the list, as an example.
Okay, so first-time voters in the next
Right.
election should come find you. Awesome. All right. And what's your fondest memory of living in Sudbury?
Oh, my fondest memory was when John Powers appointed me as chairman of the Sudbury Historical Bicentennial in 1776. That occasion brought the community together. We had 7 dances going on at the same time on a Saturday night. They bussed them in from Our Lady of Fatima and from around town, so there was no traffic. And we made about $16,000 from that event. And some of the money was to build the patio on the east side of the Hosmer House, and also in Heritage Park, the granite markers was paid for by that event. We had the Mayor of England come over with his wife, and we had many pictures of town dignitaries taken with him.
Very cool. And what, I guess tying into that last question, what is your most vivid memory of your time in Sudbury?
Okay, I have worked tirelessly with great committee members to upgrade the Hosmer House, which was built in 1793. It is now, today, the gem of the center. It was in disrepair, and we renovated all the rooms to bring it back to its original condition, which the property and home were donated by Miss Hosmer to the town in 1959. The holiday open house that we hold in December is the highlight, that each room is decorated by town organizations, and it's open free to the public to enjoy.
Is there any changes, like big changes, small changes, but how has this town changed over your lifetime here?
Big time, big time. I mean, it was a small community. Everybody practically knew everybody. You would go down to McKinnon's store or Bradshaw's store, and it would take you a long time because you got talking to everybody. Today, it's so large and a bedroom town that people aren't involved in the community as they used to be. And it's expanded so much, and most of the farms have been taken away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know, were you here when Raytheon came in?
Yes.
Okay, so I know for me that's like the biggest change is Raytheon's been here since I lived here, and or since we moved here in 2001. But with the coming of like Whole Foods and more shopping centers, do you think that's going to help bring people to the town, or do you think it's going to be a bit more of like a nuisance, or what's your take on that?
Well, of course, we have lost a lot of income from the Raytheon plant. The biggest mistake I personally think that Sudbury made is years ago they wanted to divert the part of Sudbury of Route 20 around Sudbury. That would have kept it a smaller town. But by keeping Route 20 going through the town, you have to have businesses there. And it has been at times hard time to bring companies into Sudbury. And then we also have had large companies that have left, also Sperry Rand. And in its place, we now have Frost Farm and other businesses.
Okay. To businesses, companies, people who are thinking about moving to Sudbury, what would you say, like, how would you advertise Sudbury to people who are looking to come here either for business or to move?
Well, not I, but others advertise it as the greatest educational school system. But there's competition now from Acton, Stowe, and others that are just as good. It's a beautiful town. I personally feel that we have lost lots of its character. Where we had ranches and Cape Cods, we now have McMansions, and that has changed the whole town.
Yeah, I agree. There's that, do you know that big mansion on Water Row that this guy spent probably, I don't know, like 7 or 8 years building? It's like 4 stories. It's way set back in the property.
Yes.
And now he's trying to sell it. So I think that for me is like, why would you build a house on a beautiful piece of land that's very expensive, but then not live in it for the rest of your life?
It's been sold a couple of times.
Really? Oh. So do you still live in your original home?
Oh, yes, I do.
Very nice. And have you made any big updates to that, or is it still?
Well, my taxes have gone up.
Yeah.
No, I raised horses and sheep and chicken there because I have an acre, and I have use of acres behind me because it's conservation land well, in front of me is the Sudbury River. There's 600 acres there. Behind me is 119 acres, which my neighbor owns and I had the use of back then. So it's real country.
Mm-hmm. Are there any town traditions that used to be around that are no longer, parades or festivals that we no longer do that you would like to see brought back to the people of Sudbury?
Well, I don't know. We had the Memorial Day Parade and the 4th of July Parade, and we have Christmas celebrated here. Of course, the Minuteman March to Concord in 1776, we had 75. We had 351 men, and now it's just really small. And that would be something nice to build up and continue.
Yeah, that was always my favorite part about elementary school, was learning about the colonial history.
Right.
I remember we learned how to load muskets when I was in 3rd grade, which might not have been the safest thing to do, but it was definitely fun.
Right. Well, I used to dress my children up, make their costumes. I made 13 costumes, dressed them all up, come down here at 5 o'clock in the morning with them. But that's something my children remember.
Yeah, and given with all of the political changes that have happened over the decades, did Sudbury, I don't know how to phrase this question, but did Sudbury ever go through big changes along with the Vietnam War? Did you notice people kind of making their opinions public? Were there protests going on in Sudbury during these relatively volatile times?
Well, which they didn't back then.
Mm-hmm.
People really didn't get into political fiascos like they do today. But they do come out to the town center or in front of this other church and hold signs, and and they do put up posters around town now, not only for what's going on in town, but also sometimes political.
Yeah. With all the stores that have come into Sudbury, are there any that you really like? TJ Maxx or any of the new companies that have come into town?
Well, where I work, I don't get time to use them too much, but I do shop in Sudbury. I believe living here and supporting them, and
it's just, yeah.
I'm glad they're here. Mm-hmm. It was very nice years ago we're living on Water Row, right here in the Sudbury was Young's store, so if I needed milk and bread, I could just come down to the center of town. Yeah. Now you have to go down Route 20. That's a change.
Yeah.
And the traffic is huge. Huge difference is the traffic.
Yeah. Either of you guys have any questions you want to ask, or?
I think you covered a broad spectrum.
All right. So
the only other thing I want to say is what's important in this was and now is the religion in this town. Mm-hmm. We have many churches of all different religions and synagogues, etc. And I, being on the Board of Trustees of the Methodist Church, have worked long and hard to make sure that the new population is as dedicated as we were back then.
And I guess, what's your take on this project and preserving the history of Sudbury?
Oh, I'm a born historian. That question, there's no doubt in my mind. My commission fully is in support of the Sudbury Historical Society. People get very mixed up with the commission and the society. The commission is selected by the selectmen and have 7 members and reports to the Sudbury Historical Commission. The society is a private organization with their members supporting them. And I wish them the very best on their project of restoring the Loring Parsonage.
Thank you. And as a fellow lover of history, what would you say to anybody who wants to pursue their love of history, whether it's volunteering or getting a degree? What would you say to them?
To pursue it, definitely. And also to join the society and find out, and they have research that you can do over there, and genealogy, and also many pictures of things, and I would suggest taking courses on it also.
All right. Well, I think that's it. We're all set. I'm going to hit pause.